Joe Biden announces officially, well, through his wife anyway, that he is running for re-election again. So, well, this is the third time he's announced it, but I guess we'll see what happens and where it goes and what happens with that. Speaking of election news, Marjorie Taylor Greene is in court today to see whether or not, excuse me, she is even qualified to run for office again because she's so wildly unpopular. That's what all the mainstream outlets tell me anyway. She's so wildly unpopular and her opponent has outraised her so much. I have no idea what is going on with Video Game Study Lounge right now. Her opponent has outraised her so much that they don't think they can win with her. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Libs of TikTok creator may have a deal with Seth Dillon of The Blaze, so we'll talk just about what's going on with that. And DeSantis threatens to go after the special legislative districts of Disney. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, Heads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got a weird slate of news to get to. A lot of stuff going on over here. And yeah, we are going to talk about election stuff on the top because it is midterm season and they're going to try to shuffle around and honk and do whatever they can to try to make sure that they wrest power and hold power coming up into the next midterm here because it's all about power at this point. It really is. That's one of the scariest things about this entire situation to me, is how much this is about power and how little this is about the American people and serving the American people. It is about trying to drive an agenda and trying to make certain people up at the top rich. And all politicians suck. Yes, even that one. So that's what we're going to go over today. We are going to do some of the DeSantis stuff, some Libs of TikTok stuff, another massive military aid package going to the Ukraine. We're going to talk about that. And by the way, I do have the Dark Mega article up as well. So we're going to laugh and poke fun at that and what's going on. And there are actually people out there on the Twitterverse that are trying to tell you, oh, is Dark Mega going to come after me now? No, because it doesn't exist. It can't come after you if it doesn't exist. So, a couple announcements before we get started, before we even get into the TurnStopPages Productions news. Guys, do pay attention. Keep in mind, there will be an event. I think I'm going to make it tonight after I get done with work, but I am going to have John from the Generational Gap on for Ed Talk coming up this weekend, this Saturday at 5:30 Central Time. We're going to talk, we're going to pay lip service to the topic. Let's be honest, this is Ed Talk, so this is free for all. Anything goes, and whatever is in the live chat goes in the live chat. We're going to, excuse me, attempt to talk about the fall of Anakin Skywalker. There was a Twitter trend that went through yesterday. They were talking about Anakin Skywalker and the fall and what actually caused Anakin to fall. And, you know, for two people who love the Star Wars franchise as much as John and I do, I thought it would be a lot of fun for him to sit down and try to talk about this while also sitting down and taking your live chat because it's Ed Talk, which means it's your show. It always is your show. So come in and join us for that, 5:30 Central Time. There will be an event that, again, is coming up here. We're going to, we'll sit down, we'll talk about that, we'll go with that, but let's get into the well, let's peddle the wares first before we get into the news. So, speaking of John, head on over and check out TurnStopPagesProductions.com, which is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Once we get started, we will be carrying great shows, such as The Porch Boys, where John sits and hides behind the avatar. Thank you, Seawall, for all the avatars off of that, by the way. Also, go check out the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative. Anything that Britt does is going to be on the site, so go and check that out. Plus a new surprise show that's going to be coming up with that. And if you would like to support us, GiveSendGo.com/TurnStopPages101 and go check that out. That is going to be our hub for getting donations in for this. Looking in right now, we've got $20 up there, but for those of you in the know, before we go public with the name, yes, my name is on there, but it's GiveSendGo.com/TurnStopPages101. You guys are in the know. If you guys want to help out, otherwise we'll be going public and marketing this like hell coming up in the coming weeks. So definitely go and check that out. And let's get into the finance for the morning. Let's get the live chat up so I can see what you guys are doing. All right, looking into the Dow. The Dow spent the majority of the day up, and Market Watch is taking a victory lap over this. And see, this is the rally. Look at what's happening here with the taxes. We'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. But on the Dow did stay up throughout the day, 1.45%. So the markets were happy. And again, if you guys are looking at what's in your stock portfolios, you're probably seeing some good news coming up right now for your retirement accounts. I would be wary of that, but this is not official financial advice. So make sure that you're on growth stock. Make sure that you are prepared no matter what, once it comes to retirement. And if there's any other direction that you need to go for retirement, definitely go and check that out. Looking in at Bitcoin, which has also taken a fairly significant climb over the past day. We were at the 40,000 mark, just in the lower 40,000s when we started looking at this yesterday. We are now up to 42,050 US dollars and 50 US cents. Over the past 5 days, that is up $1,500. And that's after a significant drop, too. So 3.7% over the past 5 days. Looking at where the Bitcoin is going, guessing same thing with the stocks. A lot of people are getting either a refund or they're done with paying their taxes. So they're, not that worried about it anymore. Now starting to grab some of the more liquid and more tangible assets with it when they can. So that's something to watch and something to see where that goes. And those of us who already hold Bitcoin are going to see, well, a nice little surprise at the end of the week as well for that. Gas in Madison, Wisconsin. Your low price in the Madison area is at $3.55. 2 stations in Sun Prairie are carrying it that way. Otherwise, we are up to $3.64, $3.65, $3.69. Not cracking $3.70 yet in the area. It's over $3.70 down here. But going up around Madison to Forest, we're seeing the $3.69, so we'll see what happens with that and where that goes and what happens with our energy. It's amazing. Just before a travel weekend, we were seeing $3.35, $3.45, $3.55, and now it's $3.55 to almost $3.80. And we'll see what happens with that. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow futures rise. After market rally, Netflix crashes on subscriber fall, Tesla earnings due. From Ed Carlson. Dow futures rose modestly Wednesday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, even as Netflix plunged on a surprise subscriber decline. The 10-year Treasury yield, which nearly hit 3% overnight, reversed lower before the open. The stock market rally showed strong gains Tuesday, while Treasury yields kept rising and energy prices tumbled. The S&P 500 reclaimed a key level, but a lot of Tuesday's big winners were beating down stocks. The market rally remains under pressure and divided. Investors should keep exposure modest and focus on leading sectors. Netflix earnings topped views while revenues fell short, but the real news is that Netflix subscribers fell by 200,000 in quarter one. Its first decline in more than a decade. Analysts had expected a gain of roughly 2 million. And for quarter two, Netflix sees subscribers down by another 2 million. Wow, that's actually a little bit interesting. It's declining, it's going away. I have some questions about what's going on with that as well. I mean, one of the things to go with Netflix, they had I would say a relatively mild slate of original content. It's getting worse throughout the years, I will admit that. But one of the things with Netflix is it was one of the only ones out there. Oh, hey, let's go back to the top. It was one of the only games out there and one of the few ones. I mean, a lot of people didn't even realize that they had free video with their Amazon Prime account. I didn't for a long time. I've been using Amazon Prime. I had no idea that I had free video with it. But there are a lot of people out there that did that. So that was one of the few places where you could go and check out some of your old 90s shows. They picked up a lot of those. They ran the seasons of those and kept them on there in a rotating form. But it was consistent, especially with my generation's obsession with the later Star Wars and even going back to the earlier Star Wars and the space commies narrative of Star Wars. They were all, or not Star Wars, Star Trek. Star Wars being on there too was a help and a boom for that. But as Disney picked up the Star Wars franchise, took that away from there, and now Paramount Plus is taking the Star Trek franchise away from there, it's really going down to where it's either only new content or a few movies that you've never heard of coming out of the 90s. I don't really... It's not hard for me to see why they might be declining right now, because their content is getting stale. Let's see. Subscription price hikes and growing streaming competition from the likes of Disney and HBO Max parent Warner are taking a toll on Netflix, which already has a very high penetration among U.S. households. Netflix signaled it'll crack down on password sharing, seeking to convert more paying customers. It'll also open to a lower-priced ad-supported model. Netflix plunged 27% in extended trade, signaling a move below the March 2020 coronavirus low. And nearing its September 2019 lows, shares peaked in November 2021 and gradually at first. Netflix stock crashed 22% on January 21st on weak subscriber guidance that turned out to be still too bullish. Disney fell 5% in pre-market trade, threatening its fresh 52-week low. Warner Bros. Discovery, Paramount Global, and Roku also fell solidly. Well, and another thing to look at with that, especially with a lot of households that still have cable. You know, there are a lot of millennial households that just have the streaming services and don't have cable in there, but a lot of them still just, if you're going to come home from work and want to do something, you've got your on-demand from your regular cable company. Spectrum has their on-demand service. So instead of having to sit down and plunge through a season's worth of stuff, you can just go back to the old model and watch whatever's on the TV, fast forward through the commercials, and binge out, veg out, and that, and not have to think about what to go back and watch on the streaming service. So, as people are going back to work, and especially as people are looking to cut expenses, which I'm guessing is going to be driving this, I'm starting to see a lot of stuff that's going to happen with that. All right. Meanwhile, Dutch chip equipment giant ASML, not ASMR, and U.S. health insurance giant Anthem beat forecasts before the open. ASML stock rose before the open, boosting other chip equipment names. Anthem also rose. Finally, Lululemon aims to double its 2021 sales to $12.5 billion in 2026. Lulu rose modestly before the open after flashing already early buy signals, clearing resistance near its 200-day line. Tesla earnings loom. Tesla earnings loom on Wednesday night. On Tuesday, Tesla Shanghai restarted production after being shut down for 3 weeks, but a return to full output will likely take several weeks. Tesla stock rose 2.4% to $10.28.15 on Tuesday as it works on an 11.52.97 cup with handle buy point. Meanwhile, Twitter fell 4.7% to 46.16 a day after jumping 7.5%. Tesla CEO Musk reportedly is scrambling to find partners to help him with his Twitter takeover bid. Musk is willing to put up another $10 billion to $15 billion, according to the New York Post, on top of the money spent on his current 9.1% Twitter stake. Musk has offered $43 billion or $54.20 a share for Twitter, but there's been no formal bid. Blackstone and Brookfield Asset Management aren't interested in financing a Twitter deal, the Financial Times report. So a lot of stuff that's moving here into the markets, a lot of stuff that's changing, a lot of stuff that's shifting, and now that again tax day is over, people are not worried and all their taxes are paid. Now they're going to start looking back to their retirement and saying, "Hey, what do I do?" So we'll see a few mixes here. We'll see what happens with that. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.5% versus fair value. Disney stock weighed on the blue chip index, but Procter & Gamble rallied on solid earnings. S&P futures rose 0.45%, and NASDAQ futures climbed also 0.5% after tumbling more than 1% at various points late on Tuesday. Netflix is a big drag on NASDAQ futures, but ASML ASMR, and Lululemon are providing a boost. The 10-year yield fell 4 basis points to 2.87. The benchmark yield hit 2.98% overnight. We are going to crack 3% on the benchmark yield at some point here if they keep going the way they're going. Crude oil prices rose more than 1%. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Looking in at Market Watch for another quick little view on what's going on here. Why did the stock market soar on Tuesday? Call it a post-tax day rally, says FundStrat's Tom Lee. From William Watts. Investors scrambled for reasons to explain a sharp stock market surge on Tuesday that saw the Dow Jones jump nearly 500 points as major indices turned in their best performance in a month. A look at the calendar may offer the best explanation, argued FundStrat co-founder Tommy Lee. Equities have fallen in a straight line since March, 13 trading sessions, and the decline continued into April 18th, the deadline for filing federal tax income returns, Lee said in a Tuesday note. The note highlighted his research data that shows stocks have tended to suffer in the run-up to tax day as investors raise cash to pay Uncle Sam, often followed by a sustained bounce in years when investors face hefty tax bills. They faced a doozy of another big year of gains for equities in 2021. FundStrat has estimated putting total capital gains taxes on equities at a record of more than $800 billion, along with another $150 billion or more for crypto-related capital gains. FundStrat found that since '45, the post-tax day returns have been the strongest following a big up year for the S&P 500, defined as the top two deciles. The 29% advance for S&P last year was just shy of the cutoff for the top decile at 29.6. So, again, people paid their taxes and now they're going back out and investing, looking into their retirement saying, hey, how do I make my money work for me now that I'm done paying Uncle Sam? So that's what we see off of that. Let's get into the big news of the day. And Fanning is here right in time for the big news of the day too, by the way. Starting from Fox 13, Tampa Bay. President Biden reportedly tells Obama he is seeking re-election in 2024. From Daniel Miller. President Biden is hinting again that he intends to seek a second term in office. The Hill reported Tuesday that Biden informed former President Barack Obama that he plans to run for re-election in 2 years. Biden has previously addressed his political future publicly during a NATO summit in Brussels last month, in which he was also wandering around. The president told reporters that he would be very fortunate if, in the next presidential election, his former opponent was former President Donald Trump. Biden defeated Trump in the 2020 presidential election. Honk, honk, honkity honk. I said honk, honk, honkity honk. In November of 2021, White House press secretary red-haired bobblehead confirmed to reporters that Biden would run for re-election in 2024. When asked by a reporter if he was considering running for re-election, bobblehead responded, Yes, Peter, that's his intention, and let's circle back here. Trump hasn't confirmed if he will seek the White House again in 2024, but hinted at it. In 2021, he spoke at a New York fire station in September 11th, where he responded to speculation of a possible presidential run. Trump says that he knows what he wants to do, but campaign finance law prohibited him from saying it too much. Biden, who is 79, would be 82 if he were to be re-elected as president in 2024. News of Biden seeking re-election comes amid low approval ratings during his first year in office. Many of the concerns among Americans are related to inflation reaching a 40-year high, surging gas prices, and the president's handling of the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. To manage price surges at the pump, Biden announced last week a step at trimming gas prices by roughly a dime a gallon by limiting, at a limited number of stations by waiving rules that restrict ethanol blending. The Associated Press, Norwick Center for Public Affairs Research, conducted several polls over the past year to gauge where the country stands on Biden's job performance. Hey, look, a hand-implanted microchip could be used for contactless payments. No! The mark of the beast. If they don't want us to joke about the mark of the beast, stop doing stuff that sounds like the mark of the motherfucking beast. According to one poll from January, Biden ended his first year in the White House with most Americans disapproving of his performance amid the pandemic and inflation. In another AP NORC poll from March, a few Americans expressed confidence that Biden could handle a crisis, with most believing he lacked the toughness in dealing with Russia. Only 43% approved of Biden, and a similar number approved of his handling of the relationship with Russia. Additionally, only a quarter of people were confident with Biden had the ability to handle a crisis, promote U.S. standing in the world, or effectively manage the U.S. military. 56% of Americans think the president has not been tough on Russia, while 36% said his approach has been about right. Look, there are some things that go along with this. Now, one of the things to pay attention to is the optics behind this, and some of the things that we're going to see coming off of this, and with the next article that goes with that. We'll cover that in the next article. But one of the things that I do want to pay attention to as we talk about this is how this looks. And almost, because, I mean, he's announced this before. He announced this almost immediately after he got his hand off the Bible and said, "Hey, promise to uphold the thing, man. Come on. You know, so help me, that guy up there that I'm going to be meeting soon." But he really does have to. I mean, he doesn't have a choice but to come out and say, "Oh, yeah, of course I'm going to run again. Why wouldn't I? I'm fit as a fiddle." Because really, honestly, and he's probably going to get primaried. I'm going to come right out and say he probably is. But in the midst of the crisis, in the midst of the inflation, in the midst of the Ukraine, especially in the midst of the Ukraine and foreign policy, for him to come out and say, you know what? I'm kind of tired. I think I want to go to bed now. Jill, where's my tapioca? Projects weakness with the fact that we are adjacent to a foreign conflict. We are not in a foreign conflict, thankfully, but we are adjacent to a foreign conflict. And that would be the worst optics possible. You think that Russia is emboldened now? Just with the fact that he's there? If he comes out and says, no, I don't think I want to do this again. The A-team will be sitting in Kiev by tomorrow night, and probably in Warsaw by the day after. If the deep state is playing him, wouldn't he be the fiddle and not the fiddler? Ron? But that's what we see off of that. And this going in, and I've mentioned it on this channel before. Should there be an age limit for politicians? Considering re-election, some voters say yes. And this is what I think that they're doing. I want to see if there's a video of him saying that he's going to run again, just for curiosity.
The headline from The Hill, sources.
Nope, that's not it. That's a news story.
The headline.
That's also the news story. I don't know why they embedded it twice. Let's see here. This is from Scott Thuman, though. Sources say President Biden told former President Barack Obama that he will run again in 24, firming up what he has previously indicated. Looking to the future, some voters are questioning his age and capability. No. I'm going to full stop and back that one right up. Right there. They're not questioning his age and capabilities. He is fulfilling the final role. According to Washington Post ABC poll, when asked if he's got the mental sharpness to effectively run the country in February, only 40% said yes, which is down significantly from 51% back in May of 2020. Some pundits have long said that Biden has to at least claim that he'll go again. Yeah, he has to. He has no choice. Listen, with Biden, he absolutely has to say he's going to run again, or it'll seem like a lame duck. Well, he is a lame duck, but... So let's hope that he has the health to do it again. Gary Nordlinger, a professor at Washington University, said on Full Measure. But Biden's gaffes and corrections have made many wonder if he'll be primed to run another 2 years from now, when he'd be 81 years old. Former President Trump would be 78 if he runs again, also had his mental strength called into question. Trump, using 2 hands to drink water or carefully walking down a ramp, was used as fodder for his critics too. In fact, age and aptitude are major factors for many Washingtonians. A new CNN report shows that Dianne Feinstein's colleagues worry she's no longer fit, and fellow 88-year-old Republican Senator Chuck Grassley is running again, raising eyebrows. Oh my God, 88 years old running for re-election, Nordlinger said. In both these states, there are 3 generations of politicians that want to move up the political food chain that are feeling constrained by this. And this is, if you really want me to be completely honest with it, I think that this is part of the reason that they honked Biden in. I really think that's the reason that they did so. And it's not just because they are terrified of Trump. They are. They're terrified of everybody in the America First movement, and we'll be talking about that in the next article when we talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. My God, do not make me defend Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I will be mad. But when I look at something like this, and, you know, listening to the Styx video from a few days ago, and really starting to circulate this into my mind, and it's not just about President Trump. Styx seems to think that it's just about President Trump. It is not. A lot of this right now is about the Grassleys, about even the Pelosi's. The progressive movement wants to see Pelosi go away. About getting Feinstein out of here. They're starting to have the same question, and they're being fed the same question. Let me rephrase that. They're being fed the same question they had about McCain that they mysteriously suddenly forgot about when it was old, creepy Uncle Sniffendiddle. What is too old to run for president? Now, when you sit down here and you have somebody, with the exception of course, like they said, the walking slowly down the ramp, or the drinking the water with the 2 hands, or any number of other things, or covfefe, or hamburgers, or stuff like that. For the probably 70 to 80% mark, I would say that President Trump was fit, ready to go. I had questions about his fitness at a number of different places. I say questions about fitness as I go. I had questions about some of his fitness going into some of this. I really did. He seemed to do okay for what he did. He overspent by a ton. Didn't have the tax revenue to go with this, and of course, went back on his word about the omnibus bills. But as far as being with world leaders, doing good foreign policy, and hell, even doing a level of good domestic policy, bringing us up to the point where wages were rising because people were fighting, literally fighting over workers. Up until the Hong Kong, St. George riots and the coronavirus. It was really, before the coronavirus, it was really hard to believe that President Trump wasn't going to get reelected because it's the economy, stupid. Part of the reason I don't think Biden comes back again, because it's the economy, stupid. But I think a lot of this is going to be a conversation now over what's too old. They're going to go back to the John McCain playbook again. And I do think that Biden is going to step aside. He's going to do what he has to do now to stay strong looking on the world stage, but he really is going to step aside and come up and say, you know what? I'm too tired. I can't do this anymore. It's time to step aside and pass the torch on to the younger generation. I'm just too old to be president, man. Come on. While facing off against somebody who will be the same age as he was when he was inaugurated this past time. Therefore, it turns around, it screws Trump, and it screws Feinstein, who progressives are trying to get rid of. Grassley, who all Democrats are trying to get rid of. Pelosi, who progressives are trying to push aside. But that's what we see coming out of that. All right. Let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we're going to start this morning talking about her with our friends over at NPR. And remember, they need our money, comrade. They need to be able to tell the world about communist ideas, about sharing, about progressivism. And they can't do that without our money, comrade. Your taxpayer dollars are not enough. And you need to hit that donate button because they need our money. So make sure that they remain national and progressive and public. And hit that donate button. All of your money. Don't even worry about what you need to survive. All of your money to NPR. Because it's not your money, comrade. It's our money. So make sure you hit that button. Because a federal judge says Georgia voters can challenge Greene's re-election run. This comes to NPR from the Associated Press, but they still need to buy the article from there. So, our money, comrade, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. A federal judge on Monday ruled that a group of Georgia voters can proceed with legal efforts to disqualify U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from running for re-election to Congress, citing her role in the deadly U.S. selfie fest at the Capitol. The challenge filed last month with the Georgia Secretary of State's office alleges that Greene, a Republican, helped facilitate the selfie fest that disrupted Congress from certifying Joe Biden's presidential election victory. That violates a rarely cited provision of the 14th Amendment and makes her ineligible to run for re-election according to the challenge. The amendment says no one can serve in Congress who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress to support the Constitution of the U.S., shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, ratified shortly after the Civil War. It was meant to, in part, to keep representatives who had fought for the Confederacy from returning to Congress. Greene, 47, filed a lawsuit earlier this month asking a judge to declare that the law that the voters are using to challenge her eligibility is itself unconstitutional and to prohibit state officials from enforcing it. And this is, everything that we're seeing here is strategic. And it does come down to the point where I do start to question whether or not the Oath Keepers dude was in on the entire thing, and is it I have to wonder if he's a government plant too. Now, as far as Marjorie goes, I do think that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a plant. I do think that she was an actress put up there to act like the worst aspects of MAGA in history. To make people think that, oh, see, this is what's going to happen unless you give us control of Congress, is you're going to give it control to these people. I don't buy Marjorie Taylor Greene's shtick. I really don't. She just says the right thing too perfectly for me. And yes, that even includes her appearance on Tim Pool that was supposed to convert all of her non-believers, the people that don't believe in the religion of Green. That just made me fall further down into it. Again, it's the whole it's not the aspect of I necessarily disagree with the ideas. It's that she says the right thing a little bit too perfectly. Is the reason I question her. But we're going to defend her off of this one because I say the same thing about Cawthorn. I say the same thing about Gates. I say the same thing about former President Trump. Even though I would not vote for any of the people that I just mentioned, the voters have the right to have a say. They have the right to not have the courts come in and say, you can't vote for this person because we don't like you. And that's the problem that I have with this. And if the Democrats want to get them out of office, they should run up and run somebody better. Judge Amy Totenberg, in a 73-page ruling, denied Greene's request for a preliminary injunction and a temporary restraining order. Totenberg, who was appointed to the U.S. Court for the Northern District of Georgia by President Obama, wrote that Greene had failed to meet the burden of persuasion in her request for the injunctive relief. Which again tells me that they judge shopped. Georgia law says that any voter who is eligible to vote for a candidate may challenge that candidate's qualifications by filing a written complaint within 2 weeks after the deadline for qualifying. The Secretary of State must then notify the candidates of the challenge and request a hearing before the admin law judge. After holding a hearing, the admin law judge presents the findings to the Secretary of State, who then must determine whether the candidate is qualified. Free Speech for People, a national election and campaign finance reform group, filed the challenge March 24th on behalf of the group of voters. Green said in a lawsuit that she vigorously denies that she aided and engaged in insurrection to obstruct the peaceful transfer of presidential power. Which is true because at the time, nobody even knew who she was. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't get on the map, in fact, until after she was seated, and her first act after the inauguration day was to file articles of impeachment against the incoming president. But I see things like this, and first and foremost, you have to have somebody plead guilty for insurrection. And although the Oath Keeper's guy did plead guilty for insurrection proper, he did plead guilty for seditious conspiracy, which means that he will have a conviction for what essentially amounts to insurrection. Seditious conspiracy to alter a government function. That was the exact thing that they needed for something like this to go through. In fact, I would argue that had they not had somebody, because most of the people who are coming out of this are being cut loose on a misdemeanor trespass charge. Most of the people who are going through this, that's what they're getting cut loose on, is a misdemeanor trespass charge. And had they not had the one Oath Keeper come out and say, oh yeah, no, I totally was seditious and conspiring to end the government because of this. That's the only reason they can have this go forward right now, because they actually have a convicted, essentially insurrection charge. So, there's a lot of stuff that's going along with this. And again, even though I would never, even if I lived in the Northern District of Georgia, I would never vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene to save my life. I would abstain from that seat if she was in my district. I would abstain from voting if she was in my district. Whether or not they want her in that district is not between the courts and Democrats from around the country. It is between the voters of Georgia 14 and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Those are the only people who should get a say in this. Let's grab one from Newsweek. Let's see. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ted Cruz is irresponsible for labeling Capitol rioters terrorists. We'll probably watch that one in just a second, but I did nothing wrong, Greene snaps after January 6th question. So we've got some video off of this. Let's listen to that. Oh, we have no audio.
I think Senator Cruz is smart enough to know, since he's an attorney, that no one's been charged with terrorism, just like no one has been charged with insurrection. I think that was very irresponsible of him to call them terrorists, and I completely disagree.
And the establishment will never love you, Ted. You know, you can bend over at bended knee for them, but they're just not going to love you. I think that was maybe an effort by the good senator, who we agree with on many things, to recast himself in the eyes of some of the folks in your profession, but we didn't find it particularly factual or sincere.
So, and there is that aspect of it again. And, you know, now that they come, I think the establishment is going to love Ted Cruz over that, honestly, because now they can go forward with frivolous, stupid lawsuits like this. Let's read. Controversial Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene on Tuesday lashed out during a local news interview after a legal challenge to her fitness for office was allowed to proceed. Green appeared by Zoom for an interview with Tennessee-based news station WTVC. During the segment, she became heated and called the legal challenge against her a lie and a scam. I'm not accused of anything because I did nothing wrong, Green said in response to a question from host Eileen J. Gould. I don't care what the lawsuit says, I did nothing wrong, and this is a scam, okay? So I'm not entertaining this. So there's that. Let's see if we can... I know I've got the Philip Kowski video off of this. That's for the Jen Ellis show.
Going to try to say about me.
Which we'll be watching that. Let me see, because this one is showing a tweet, so we might get some video off of this too. This is a 30-second clip. Let's listen to that one.
Republican or Democrat. So to clarify my question, do you think that if a lawmaker, Republican or Democrat, participated in a riot or an insurrection, regardless of what happened January 6th, that they should or should not be allowed to run for re-election?
You mean like Ilhan Omar and Kamala Harris, who funded?
No, you're accused of.
I'm not accused of anything because I did nothing wrong. So
well, the lawsuit.
No.
Which is technically not true. She actually is accused of something. Whether or not she can be convicted of it will go with the courts and whether or not she did something wrong. But she is accused of that.
I don't care what the lawsuit says. I did nothing wrong. And this is a scam. Okay. So I'm not entertaining this.
So to clarify my question.
All right. So there is that. Let's see what Philip Kowski has to say because, well, this will be interesting to read. Philip Kowski says, Marge is getting scared for court on Friday. They're going to allow the press in the courtroom. They're going to allow the whole thing to be video live. They're going to have to be able to clip out any little piece they want of the horrible things they're going to say about me. Which is another reason that I think that they're doing this. I think that she may be right off of this. Let's listen.
Wrong. It's absurd what they are claiming and lying about. And they're going to allow the press in the courtroom. They're going to allow the whole thing to be videoed live out to go anywhere in the world they want to. And you know what that's going to look like? The Democrats and the nasty mainstream media, you know, the ones that lie about me constantly anyways, well, they're going to be able to twist and turn and clip out any little piece they want of the horrible things that these funded attorneys are going to try to say about me. And it's crazy, Jen. Nothing wrong.
Don't make me defend Marjorie Taylor Greene. I can't stand her. But she's absolutely right off of that statement. Absolutely. And realistically, when I look into this, I do not believe for a second that they actually think they can get this to go through and hold water. But what I do see off of this is the fact that now they will have her captive in front of an audience with the cameras going, with the spin machine and the editors out there like greedily rubbing their hands together like, what can we get her to say? Can we get her over the edge? What can we get her to say? We'll get her to say something racist or something that we can specifically come out and ascribe to be racist. This is going to be an interesting watch to see what they do and what gets clipped out of this. And again, I go back to the fact of what I said during the Chauvin trial, during the Rittenhouse trial. Again, unless you watch the source material, you're watching somebody else's spin. And the mainstream media actually got people with the same clips that we saw, got people to believe that Kyle Rittenhouse went out maliciously to go shoot black people. And did just that, and murdered black people. Execution style. That's what people actually believe happened. And all three of those men were all three black and were murdered execution style. By a maniac rampaging with an AR-15. As long as they can get her saying stuff, they can clip it and cut it and change it and jump cut it any way they want to make it look as bad as they can so they can make campaign ads coming into 2022 into the election cycle. From NBC, Marjorie Taylor Greene appeals judge's ruling to allow the challenge to re-election bid. From Rebecca Shabbat, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia on Tuesday appealed a ruling by a federal judge in Georgia who said a lawsuit challenging her qualifications to run for re-election can move forward. District Judge Amy Totenberg denied Greene's request for a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction to block the suit on Monday. Free Speech for the People, an election and campaign finance reform organization, filed the lawsuit last month on behalf of a group of Georgia voters, alleging that Greene facilitated the January 6th Selfie Fest. Pointing to the 14th Amendment's prohibition on anyone who engaged in insurrection or rebellion from running for federal, state, or state office, the suit alleges that Greene is ineligible to run because she engaged in obstructing the transfer of presidential power, in part through her rhetoric challenging the election results. Greene appealed Totenberg's ruling on Tuesday. She previously sought to derail the effort with her own lawsuit this month, saying that she vigorously denies that she aided and engaged in insurrection to obstruct the peaceful transfer of presidential power. Well, again, there was no insurrection. There was not an insurrection. There was zero attempt to overthrow the government. There was a protest that got out of hand with some agitators up front, I will admit, but there was not an insurrection. What you saw there was a group of people who were pissed off because their voice was not being heard. And a guy with fucking buffalo horns in the front. You notice, by the way, they stopped talking about that guy? And a guy with buffalo horns in the front. Telling everybody, no, it'll be fine. Break this window. And we'll say a prayer for it. Greene also argued the litigation would not be resolved in time for the primary on May 24th. Totenberg, an appointee of former President Obama, wrote that after a thorough analysis of the evidentiary and legal issues presented to her in the form of $100 bills, in this complex matter involving unsettled questions of the law, the court finds the plaintiff has not carried her heavy burden to establish a strong likelihood of success on the legal merits in this case. The ruling allows a state administrative judge to hear the challenge against Greene on Friday. There is more strategy to this as well, by the way, and I'd like to just point out the tinfoily side of this as well. Because I don't think that they're standing for this. I don't think that there's any standing to this, and I think that this provision of the 14th Amendment is going to get thrown out, if not at a lower court, then a higher court. Because think about what they're running against right now. They're running against somebody who has had a wall-to-wall machine of already quotes, twists, and propaganda launched against her. There has been a wall of propaganda that's gone against this woman, and they don't want her to go out and have like a primary opponent or another Republican, somebody else the RNC can pull up at the last minute that they don't have any information on to go run against Marcus Flowers. They want her to run because they have every campaign ad clipped already. But they want to see if they can get more. Plus have the specter holding over her head of, she was tried in court for insurrection. Did you check the early life section, MK Ultra? But that's what we see from that. One more here from Newsweek. Marjorie Taylor Greene rages at a lawsuit against her, warns of retaliation. From Gerard Kaunga. Video? No video. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has denounced the lawsuit against her. I could see her disqualified while speaking on the Tucker Carlson show on Monday night. No, that's just an information about Tucker Carlson. While speaking to Carlson, Green said that she would defend her name and find out ways to fight back against progressives and leftists responsible for the lawsuit. Totenberg, for the Northern District of Georgia, refused to grant Green a preliminary injunction and temporary restraining order that would have delayed the action in the case in a 73-page ruling on Monday. A group of Georgia voters are seeking to have Green disqualified based on a provision in the 14th Amendment. Yeah, we've seen all this already. Let's see. They accuse Green of helping to facilitate the Selfie Fest. It's not a democracy, Tucker. That's the thing. These people hate the people in my district so much, Green said, speaking on the topic. They look down on them because they voted for me and sent me to Washington to fight for the things that most Americans care about, like secure borders, stopping abortion, protecting our Second Amendment rights, stopping the out-of-control spending in Washington, stop funding the never-ending foreign wars. She continued, now the progressives, the people that donate, the dark money groups from 501c3s and foundations, they hired some attorneys from New York who hate the people in my district and don't believe they should have the right to elect who they want to send to Washington, which is me. Now they filed a lawsuit because they're trying to rip my name off the ballot and steal my district's ability to re-elect me and send me back to Congress. Which, and again, I don't think that this is between anybody else. If I had my choice, I would say, no, let's get Marjorie Taylor Greene off the ballot. But I don't live in Georgia 14. If that's who they want representing them to Congress, well, God fucking speed. I think you're morons. But that's your choice. That is your choice. As much as I disagree with it. So that's what we see off of that. Alright, let's talk Ukraine for just a moment. U.S. plans to announce another colossal military aid package for Ukraine. From Amanda Macias. The Biden admin is expected to announce another substantial security assistance package for the Ukraine this week. 5 U.S. officials familiar with the matter told NBC. The package is set to be the same size as the $800 million military aid package President Biden announced last week, 3 of those officials said. Earlier in the day, Biden confirmed the U.S. will send more artillery to the Ukraine. When asked whether he planned to do so, he paused and replied, yes. The U.S. has already provided more than 50 million rounds of ammo to Ukrainian forces. Hey, I'm short on ammo here. Can you provide me with some ammo, federal government? But as troops go through tens of thousands of rounds a day, the fiercer fighting is expected in the coming weeks. There's an urgent need for additional aid. The need for more artillery also raised Tuesday morning when Biden joined a secure call with more than half dozen world leaders, White House Press Secretary Red-Haired Bobblehead told reporters. John Kirby declined to detail the items in the upcoming weapons package during a briefing at the Defense Department, citing security concerns. Kirby said the makeup of the previous U.S. security packages comes directly out of multiple conversations with the Ukrainians. And by the way, most of your defense contractors are on the Dow, so that's going to be your other $800 million reason that stocks went up yesterday. Among the weapons, including the $800 million security package announced April 13th, were 18 howitzer artillery systems, the first known heavy artillery platforms of that caliber to be transferred to Ukrainian forces. The Pentagon also committed 40,000 artillery rounds from both Army and Marine Corps stockpiles. I would like a howitzer. Kirby said U.S. service members would begin training a small number of Ukrainian troops on how to use the howitzer. In short order, Kirby added that the training would be conducted outside of Ukraine. So there you go. There goes $800 million more in funding to the Ukraine. With this from CNN. What really happens to weapons sent to Ukraine, the U.S. doesn't really know. From Katie Bo Lillis, Jeremy Herb, Natasha Bertrand, and Oren Lieberman. The U.S. has few ways to track the substantial supply of anti-tank, anti-aircraft, and other weaponry it is sent across the border to Ukraine. Sources tell CNN, a blind spot that's due in large part to the lack of U.S. boots on the ground in the country. So, right there's a call to come back out here and put more boots on the ground. And the easy portability of many of the smaller systems now pouring across the border. It's a conscious risk the Biden admin is willing to take. Honkity honk. Honk honk. Honk honk. Honk honk. Honk honk. Honk honk. In the short term, the U.S. sees the transfer of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment. Yeah, how much is the big guy getting a kickback off of that? To be vital to Ukraine's ability to hold off Moscow's invasion, a senior defense official said Tuesday that it is certainly the largest recent supply of a partner country in a conflict, but the risk. Both current U.S. officials and defense analysts say that in the long term, some of those weapons may wind up in the hands of other militaries and militias that the U.S. did not intend to arm. For a substantive fee. I wonder if that fee will get paid through Burisma, by any chance. We have the fidelity for a short time, but when it enters the fog of war, we have almost zero, said one source briefed on the U.S. intelligence. It drops into a big black hole, and you have almost no sense of it all after a short period of time, and that is your tax dollars at work. In making the decision to send billions of dollars of weapons and equipment into Ukraine, the Biden admin has factored into the risk that some of the shipments may ultimately end up in unexpected places, the defense official said. But right now, the official said the admin views a failure to adequately arm Ukraine as a greater risk. I wonder if the admin official is on the take from Raytheon or Northrop Grumman. Because the U.S. military is not on the ground, the U.S. and NATO are heavily reliant on information provided by Ukraine's government. There's some good news. Privately, officials recognize that Ukraine has an incentive to give only information that will bolster their case for more aid, more arms, and more diplomatic assistance. Yes, the people that are getting freebies from you can come out and tell you that they're running out. Oh no, we ran out of munitions. Go send us more. What a joke. But hey, my Raytheon stock is doing well. From the Daily Wire, Joe Biden's poorest man in Congress humble brag trips over Hunter's pesky laptop. It's like we might get video off of this, but let's refresh this and see if something comes up. Yeah, there we go. Now we've got some video of this. President Biden has often repeated humble brag about his ranking as the poorest man in Congress, along with his claim that people should not make money while holding public office, appeared to be at odds with some of the alleged lucrative business deals mentioned in emails and texts tied to his son Hunter. Biden brought up the topic on Tuesday at the Port Authority in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, during a speech touting the impact of his bipartisan infrastructure deal. Let's listen. Here's a report, though. The recently completed Piscataqua River Turning Basin project, led by the Army Corps of Engineers, received $1.6 million from the infrastructure law, topping off the $18.2 million the Army Corps had allocated for the project in the fiscal year 2021. Seacoast Online reported. Well, let's listen.
I was listed. Had the great pleasure of being listed as the poorest man in Congress for 36 years. I still had making a hell of a lot more money than anybody else because I was getting a senator's salary. No kidding. I didn't think you should make money while you're in office. But anyway, the point of it is this. An awful lot of people are hurting. It makes a big difference.
Biden's claims that politicians should not make money while serving the people appear to fly in the face of reports, and even Hunter's own admission that the family name was used to secure meetings and possibly even grease the wheels of foreign business transactions. So let's listen.
If not more.
In the list that you gave me of the reasons why you're on that board, you did not list the fact that you were the son of the vice president.
Yeah. No.
What role do you think that played?
I think that it is impossible for me to be on any of the boards that I just mentioned without saying that I'm the son of the Vice President of the United States.
You were paid $50,000 a month for your position?
Look, I'm a private citizen. One thing that I don't have to do is sit here and open my kimono as it relates to how much money I make or did or didn't. But it's all been reported.
If your last name wasn't Biden, do you think you would have been asked to be on the board of Burisma?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think that there's a lot of things that would have happened in my life that if my last name wasn't Biden.
Why do
Yeah, a lot of things in his life wouldn't have gone that way if his last name wasn't Biden. But hey, you know what? I don't think Congress people should make money while they're sitting in office. Come on, man. Monica Crowley retweets the Greg Price tweet and says, unless you mean tens of millions from China, Russia, and Ukraine, which case it's at least 10% for the big guy. Benny Lives of TikTok aficionado says, it seems pretty clear that Hunter was trading on his father's name to make a lot of money. I never thought that I would hear this on CNN.
It seems pretty clear that Hunter Biden was trading on his father's name to make a lot of money.
On this one, I kind of wish that I could hear more, because this does seem like this is selectively edited just to get what CNN had to say. I'd like to get more of that clip before I say, yes, I believe that, or no, I don't. But that's what we see off of that. Let's do some Libs of TikTok stuff. Holy shit, we're already running up on the clock. I think I spent way too much time talking about finance today. Randy, open his kimono was probably a bad choice of words after those pics were exposed. Alright, from Libs of TikTok, the official account of Libs of TikTok, by the way. Taylor Lorenz harassed an account yesterday with a similar name in a desperate attempt to fish for information. She threatened the account that they will be implicated as starting a hate campaign against LGBTQ people if they didn't respond to her. And apparently we have the screenshot for this. Now, cannot independently verify this. I will say this right out. And I will admit, when there's something up here that I cannot independently verify, this is a screenshot. But if this is true, then Taylor Lorenz sends out the hi blank. I'm just following up here. You've been mentioned as the administrator of the Libs of TikTok account on Twitter, and I need to turn my story in today. Is that your account? Please let me know ASAP, because you're being implicated as starting a hate campaign against LGBTQIARRPTGMLP2RG7 people. If you're unaffiliated with the account, I want to be sure to set the record straight in the story. If it is your account, I'd love to speak to you about it. I'm on blank. If you want to give me a ring, let me know, and I hope to hear from you. And this is, of course, another person who has no fear of doxing other people, but will sit on mainstream media and cry because she herself got doxed. From the New York Post, Taylor Lorenz slammed as hypocrite for doxing Libs of TikTok creator. From Ariel Zilber, Taylor Lorenz, the Washington Post internet culture beat reporter, is being accused of doxing the anonymous woman who operates the popular Twitter account Libs of TikTok. Lorenz, the former New York Times journalist, that's a former newspaper, by the way, who earlier this month broke down in tears on MSDNC while recounting harassment she experienced online, published an article on Tuesday revealing the identity of the social media user. Doxing is the term used to describe the act of posting personal information whose of those who wish to remain anonymous. Critics accused Lorenz of hypocrisy after it was claimed that she showed up at the home of the woman's relatives to ask questions. The Libs of TikTok account, which posts TikTok videos from liberals, has generated more than 662,500 followers, posted an image of Lorenz outside the home of one of her relatives. Which of my relatives did you enjoy harassing the most at their homes yesterday? Read the caption attached to the photo of a woman who bears Lorenz's likeness. Greenwald, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, slammed Lorenz, tweeting the same people who just 2 weeks ago were insisting that criticizing Taylor Lorenz is wrong because it generates harassment towards her are now cheering as she shows up at the homes of relatives on Twitter users to dox them. Ben Shapiro says, Taylor Lorenz is a terrible journalist and the worst human, okay? The worst, and she shouldn't get any Birch Gold, okay? That should be all for people who are in you. Then make sure, by the way, you go to birchgold.com/Shapiro to get started on your free IRA and go check out and make sure you have some of your IRA in physical metals, okay? Birch Gold, okay? Shapiro added, targeting a Twitter account that literally just posts leftists owning themselves because the account damages the left is pure Lorenz, okay? And there she is at the home, allegedly, of a relative. Lorenz defended her decision to reveal the woman's identity, tweeting, reporters make phone calls, send messages, show up places, and knock on doors when reporting out a story. Lorenz added, I reported the story extensively, using every tool I had to ensure that I had the correct woman and could send people to destroy her business and make sure that they went out and harassed her. So, there is that. From Newsweek. Why Taylor Lorenz's Libs of TikTok expose has outraged conservatives. Well, I mean, that's not hard because these people go out and try to ruin your careers if you go against the narrative and be public about it. From Julia Carbonaro. As news that the Washington Post columnist Taylor Lorenz was about to publish a piece revealing the identity of the creator of the account Libs of TikTok started spreading, outraged conservatives accused the journalist of doxing and harassing the anonymous account holder. The conservative account Libs of TikTok, which mostly shares content attacking liberals as well as school teachers, accused of alleged grooming and indoctrination of children on LGBT rights, has become a social media sensation in the past 2 years, achieving a follower base of some 648,000 on Twitter, over 66,000 on Instagram, and over 9,000 on YouTube. The account was also once active on TikTok, but was deactivated, the anonymous creator told the New York Post in an interview on February. In her piece published on Tuesday, Lorenz named the person behind the popular account as who had worked in when Libs of TikTok was first created. Lorenz's intention to reveal the identity of the then mysterious account holder on the Washington Post became public knowledge when Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis' press secretary Christina Pushaw scared a screenshot of the email allegedly sent by the Washington Post journalist asking her for comment on the story. In Pushaw's tweet, Lorenz is allegedly working on a story exposing the woman behind Libs of TikTok. Pushaw's comments in response to Lorenz's request is in her tweet a clown emoji. Pushaw's tweet sparked a social media storm among conservatives on the platform who accused Lorenz of doxing and harassing the Libs of TikTok creator. Many have accused Lorenz of hypocrisy for allegedly exposing another woman to the same type of online harassment the Washington Post columnist had complained of receiving in a recent interview with MSDNC. New York Post writer Emma Jo Morris wrote, Taylor Lorenz is a 43-year-old woman who has a byline at one of the top most powerful outlets in media, which she uses to dox private people on Twitter and then cries on MSNBC when her self-proclaimed victim status. And that is what the story is. And even though you can Google Libs of TikTok right now, and you yourself as the audience could go find this woman's name, there's a reason that when Newsweek again put her name out there, I said, who works as there's a reason that I did that way. Because what Taylor Lorenz was doing was looking out to go back to try to find a way to get this woman to lose her job as a because she has the wrong ideas. This has nothing to do with going out and exposing the person behind this. If this person wanted to be exposed, she would have probably answered the emails numerous times to come on for an interview. This is about getting the outrage mob worked up, whipped up, and ready to go. So they can go after her the way that she apparently is sending people after some of these people on TikTok who are publicly putting their information out there. Taylor Lorenz puts this one out here. The most basic reporting practices, right-wing media. Is this doxing? Yes, it is. If someone is going out of their way to remain anonymous, and you put their name out there, you doxed. From the Blaze. Babylon B CEO Seth Dillon says he has personally made a deal with the woman behind the Libs of TikTok that will turn her into heroic high-risk work into a career. From Alex Nitzberg. Seth Dillon, CEO of the popular satire website, the Babylon Bee, declared that he reached a deal with the woman behind the popular Libs of TikTok Twitter account that will turn her heroic high-risk work into a career. He noted the deal is not with the Babylon Bee, but that he personally made the deal with her. Mostly because if she worked on the Bee, it would be satire. Libs of TikTok shares videos of leftists openly exposing their radical attitudes and beliefs. Dillon's declaration comes after Libs of TikTok recently faced Twitter suspensions, and as the Washington Post faces criticism for a piece that names and discusses a woman said to be behind the account. So we'll see what the deal is. I'm kind of curious to see where this goes and what happens with that. But hey, maybe we'll get an official website of Libs of TikTok that won't be attached to the woman. From the Daily Wire. Never going to happen. Libs of TikTok creator tells Tucker that she refuses to be intimidated by haters. Tucker Carlson opened his Fox News show Tuesday night, covering how the popular social media account Libs of TikTok got doxxed by the Washington Post. Where democracy goes to die in darkness. The account creator joined Tucker by phone to discuss having her identity revealed by tech journalist Taylor Lorenz earlier that day, and how that report affected her life. Let's listen.
So I just have to ask, because I'm really interested, why do you suppose the German government wanted to shut down your Twitter feed?
Well, I think that what I'm doing is very effective, and I think that a lot of people wanted to shut me down. They wanted to intimidate me into silence, and unfortunately for them, that's just never going to happen.
Well, I'm grateful to hear that you're not intimidated. Were you a little surprised to see, of all people, Taylor Lorenz, who complained bitterly when we used her name on the air several months ago, who whined and cried on television because she had PTSD because people were criticizing her online? Were you surprised that it was her who came after you personally and tried to destroy your life?
Yeah, I thought that was really humorous. It added a really nice layer of humor on top of the whole story. And I think that the fact that it was Taylor Lorenz, who is a known, hypocrite and she is known to dox people, the fact that it was her that was doing all this, I think it just helps people rally with support for me.
Have you noticed, I mean, I know you're not a psychiatrist, or perhaps you are, I don't know who you are, but are you surprised that the people who are the most deeply enmeshed in narcissism, who talk about themselves the most, are also capable of the greatest cruelty? Have you noticed that trend?
Yes, I've noticed that a lot. I've noticed it with a lot of TikToks as well. I think it's a little bit of a trend on the left.
Yeah. I obsess over myself, so I'm willing to hurt you. So what's your status since we have you on the phone? How are you doing tonight? You don't need to tell us where you are, but how has this affected your life, this Jeff Bezos piece?
Well, the past 2 days have been very chaotic and overwhelming. I have to make some travel plans, really fast, but.
And I don't like Tucker Carlson. Most of you know that. I don't care for Tucker Carlson, but I really like what he is doing here with the way that he's saying this, doing this, and comporting himself with this interview. He is going out of his way, completely out of his way, in spite of the fact that the information is out there. And it was the same thing that I did when I read any of the articles. Going out of his way to still say, he knows exactly where she is. He knows exactly what her name is, but still to keep her private, in spite of the fact that her name is now everywhere. I like that. I think that is amazing of Tucker Carlson. And, the more I look at this and the more that I see of this, it really is. It's a pain for me when I look at the fact that, okay, this is a person who went out of her way to remain anonymous, who went out of her way, absolutely, to make sure that nobody knew what her name was in the public sphere. Because that's what I did. Up until the give, send, go, and I've actually had to sit down and talk to my mom and dad about this. Until the give, send, go thing, which, again, there's a reason I haven't really released that out to the public yet, in spite of the fact that it's, 2 months old at this point? In spite of that. And yes, for those of you who are in the know, I do have a very common last name, but I have tried to, throughout my entire YouTube career, remain anonymous on both Twitter and on YouTube and all the other platforms as well, because my parents have the same last name as me. They didn't ask to be in the public arena. My mom, even though she watches the show and does want to chat with you guys, doesn't sit down and chat with you guys because I've not been able to sit down with her Google account and scrub our last name from it. Which I'll probably put an avatar name on there, probably like Mama J. Edgar or something like that. So you don't have a first name in there as well. But yeah, she is out there. They're trying to stay anonymous. My sister has the same last name as me. I joke about the fact that I talk about my brother-in-law from time to time, but he's actually not my brother-in-law. They're not married. My sister has the same last name as me. Her kids don't, but she still does. And I don't, and again, even though it's a very common last name, it's one of the top 10 common last names in the country. I don't want my parents or my sister involved in this for somebody like Taylor Lorenz to go back, if I ever do pop off and become famous, to go knocking at their door. Well, they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so if Taylor Lorenz goes knocking at somebody's door, it probably won't turn out well for her. I'm just going to say that. But I don't want that burden to be on them. I don't. So just to see that this person went and dug this way to make this person known and famous, and then to see Tucker still dance around this, that is a mad level of respect. I like Tucker a little bit more because of the way that he did that. Just a little bit. I still think he's a political hack, and as far as journalistic integrity goes, I think he's a hack there too, but with the way he danced around that still, in spite of the fact that that information is out there everywhere, I have a little bit more respect for Tucker because of that. More people being doxxed. Florida judge who killed travel mask mandate was a Trump appointee who never tried a case. Because that's the way they're going to go around with that now. From Sam Sachs. 5 days after the U.S. CDC ordered an extension to their travel mask mandate for airplanes and public transports, a Tampa-based federal judge appointed by former President Trump voided the order. DeSantis and Ashley Moody had previously begun a lawsuit against the mandate, which the state announced on March 29th. On April 18th, the Middle District of Florida Judge Catherine Kimball Mizell voided the CDC's mandate, ending the travel mask requirements. Look at all these evil judges that Trump puts up there that aren't qualified to be judges. They don't do what it is that, what we tell them to, so they're not qualified to be judges. And now, let's go through the early life section, because apparently liberals do that too now. So who is the judge in Tampa who brought down the mask order on Monday? Mizell was appointed to the bench by Trump in 2020 at the age of 33. Her appointment was not without opposition. The American Bar Association cited her lack of experience in trying cases in court, having only served as counsel twice while still in law school, as reason to declare her unqualified to be a federal district court judge. At the time, Mizell had only been a licensed attorney for 8 years, according to the ABA. She didn't do what we liked, so now she's unqualified. Give me a fucking break. Are you serious right now? Most of Mizell's law experience is from her time spent clerking for big business names in conservative circles. A Florida-educated attorney, Mizell served as a law clerk for U.S. District Judge James S. Moody, Jr. from 2012 to 2013, and for Judge William H. Pryor of the 11th Circuit following year. Moody Jr. is the father of current Florida AG Moody. It's a conspiracy. They put these people in place to get rid of the orders to make Biden look bad. But that's where they're going right now, because they got an answer that they didn't like. From the Associated Press. Feds will appeal mask ruling only if mandate is still needed. From Heather Hollingsworth and Teresa Crawford. Translation: the Biden admin is kicking this can down the road onto the CDC. From Heather Hollingsworth and Teresa Crawford. The Justice Department said Tuesday it will not appeal to a federal district judge's ruling that ended the nation's federal mask mandate on public transit unless the CDC believes that the requirement is still necessary. In a statement released the day after a Florida judge ended the sweeping mandate, which required face coverings on planes and trains and transit hubs, Justice Department spokesman Anthony Coley said officials believe that the federal mask order was a valid exercise of the authority Congress has given the CDC to protect the public health. He said it was an important authority the department will continue to work to preserve. Coley said the CDC had said it would continue to assess public health conditions, and if the agency determined the mandate was necessary for public health, the Justice Department would file an appeal. As of Tuesday, the agency hadn't made a determination, officials said. By the way, this article is from yesterday. This federal judge's ruling did away with the last major vestige of federal pandemic rules and led to a mishmash of new locally created rules that reflect the nation's ongoing divisions over how to battle the pinko fucking pox. Major airlines and airports like Dallas, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake City quickly switched to mask optional policies. LA County dropped its mandate for mass transit, and a train conductor in New Jersey told commuters of their mask Tuesday, feel free to burn them at will. New York City, Chicago, Connecticut, however, continue to require masks for travelers. So, we will see. But yeah, they're waiting right now to see if the CDC wants to get to this, or if they just want to let it go and die. From Newsweek. This. The Twitter trend yesterday. Newsweek shares an article about Dark MAGA. What is Dark MAGA? Trump supporters attempt to rebrand for 2024. I'm going to tell you right now, Dark MAGA does not exist. This is another scare tactic to come in and make sure that you vote Democrat, or don't go and vote, in 2022. from Julia Carbonaro. A small fringe of Trump supporters is calling for the former president to get back on the highest stage of U.S. politics with a vengeance, with the motto, #DarkMAGA. More of a meme than a political slogan, Dark MAGA is a post-alt-right aesthetic that promotes an authoritarian version of Trump in dystopian, Terminator-like images. In sum, what do you want to bet that this is something that Democrats cooked up? In sum, the Trump Tower is painted entirely black and the former president is seen piercing through the screen with blue laser eyes. The hashtag first appeared on Twitter on January 21st. It had become increasingly popular by March and now can be found in thousands of memes on Telegram and TikTok as well. Really? Because this is literally, yesterday was the first that I had heard of it. The aesthetics of the movement are easily recognizable. Images edited in red and black, or red and blue, featuring people with blue laser eyes, often holding weapons, or standing in front of neo-Nazi symbols. This sounds like something the left made up. Because the left has a handle on what the neo-Nazi symbols are. I had literally no idea what an Odal rune was until CPAC a couple years ago. And as much as a lot of you are trying to come out and say this, I'm going to go on a limb and say most of you didn't either. The left sure knew what it was, though. The left knew right away what the Odal rune was, the stage at CPAC. Dark MAGA supporters are calling for a ruthless, unforgiving version of Trump to take revenge on his political enemies at the 2024 election. Though the movement hasn't been recognized or endorsed by Trump in any form, the former president hasn't yet even formally confirmed whether he'll run in 2024. In the description of the hashtag Dark MAGA hashtag creator, as described by the Global Network on Extremism and Technology, Dark MAGA represents Napoleon being exiled and raising a fucking army to attack Europe and attack the elites. This sounds like something the left made up. This is just so beyond ridiculous that I can't see anybody with any common sense making this. But I can see a few of the fringest MAGA people out there joining onto it. But here's your Dark MAGA. Here's a sentence I never thought I'd say. The first line of China's national anthem is censored on Weibo. Hashtag characters that I can't read. Stand up, those who refuse to be slaves has been banned after people used it to vent frustration about prolonged lockdowns. The phrase itself is still searchable, but not the hashtag. This isn't the first time the lyrics of the national anthem is banned. During the Cultural Revolution in the 60s, the lyrics was once banned. In 78, the CCP altered the lyrics of this national anthem. The original version was restored in 1982. Yeah, I can't imagine the CCP right now being appreciative of their subjects trying to not be slaves. More Philip Kowski, and we'll do some Florida man stuff. 3 days after his admin was challenged to produce examples of CRT from his banned list of math textbooks, DeSantis still has nothing except to say they could say some of these things. Follow the money to see which publishers got the contracts. Now, I will actually... I can't make my mouth say that. I will actually possibly ally myself with Philip Kowski on this. Wow, I cannot believe... That hurt to say. Holy shit, did that hurt to say. I will take Philip Kowski's side on this. Ow, that hurts. But in seriousness, in order for me to understand this, and I can listen to all kinds of 4chan's images and whatnot. I would actually need to see these textbooks to be able to say whether or not they have CRT in them. And as far as the DeSantis administration, no, they have not brought anything forward off of this. As far as I have seen thus far. We've seen a lot of people discuss this in back alleys and back channels, but as far as actual green check reporting on what's in the books, I'd actually need to see an example. I would actually need to see one of the books that got banned, so I can see the CRT for myself. God, that hurt to say. My God. But let's listen to what DeSantis has to say here.
You know, math is about getting the right answer. And we want kids to learn to think so they get the right answer. It's not about how you feel.
But if math is getting the right answer, I thought the right answer was that America started in 1619 and that slavery is so ingrained into whiteness that only white people in history have ever owned slaves and everybody else has been a permanent underclass.
About the problem or to introduce.
Am I doing this right, Philip Kowski?
Some of these other things, there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, and we want all our students getting the right answers. And so most of the books that did not meet Florida standards for whatever reason happen to be in the early grades. As you get into the older grades, most of those books did meet the standards, but we're going to continue to focus the education on the actual strong academic performance of the students. We don't want things like math to have some of these other concepts introduced. It's not been proven to be effective, and quite frankly, it takes our eye off. Math is about getting the right answer, and we want kids to learn to think so they get the right.
Yeah, again, I believe in the wokeness that's coming into the schools because I've seen some of the stupidity that comes out of CRT. But as far as actually seeing CRT in a math book, I would need to see that myself. That is the standard I hold to everything else. Part of the reason that I haven't really pushed onto this story, except for the media reactions to it. But more DeSantis news. Governor of Florida man, apparently. DeSantis threatens to go after Twitter board for trying to sink Elon Musk's purchase. From Salim Algar, which means that he's going to use the EO pen once again. Ron DeSantis is threatening to go after Twitter's board of directors for attempting to sink Elon's bid to purchase the social media giant. Speaking in an unrelated press conference on Tuesday, DeSantis said the firm bumbled its fiduciary duty by trying to scuttle a sale of some company stock at a premium. That effort could potentially injure Florida's pension funds because they hold Twitter stock, he argued. They rejected it because they know they can't control Elon Musk, DeSantis said. It was not, my judgment, a good business deal. While he didn't go into specifics, DeSantis pledged to direct state officials to explore ways to scrutinize the board's decision-making. I just saw the article on the side over there and I'm deeply disturbed. Give me a second. Give me a second to get the Alabama out of my head. When I look into this, if you really wanted to make an effect off of this and see what they want to do with the poison pill, why don't you just sell the stock that you have privately? Hey, I bet you I know somebody who makes a whole bunch of electric cars that would love to buy it for you. I bet you they'll even give you a good deal on it. We're going to be looking at ways that the state of Florida potentially can be holding the Twitter board of directors accountable for the breach of their fiduciary duty, the governor said. Upset over Musk's splashy offer, the Twitter board took action to weaken its leverage with the poison pill. We've seen all that already. So, that is that's an interesting way to go with this too, and to see what's actually happening with this is the fact that yes, a lot of these governments do have a large amount of stock of their pension fund into things like Twitter because it's considered a growth stock. It was circling the drain in 2015, but when the president came down the escalator, it became one of the foremost social media platforms. Still one of the suckiest ones, but one of the foremost. So now it's time to look at and see whether or not this is going to be good for the people, good for the Americans, or good for anybody else, and if Twitter will take it, thus putting Florida pensioners or pensioners around the country into financial instability just to make a point. So this is one, I might actually wait on this because I don't understand enough of what's going on here. I would actually have to do a little bit more research on this, but let's look into this a little bit. But we might go off of that and do a little bit more. From Tampa Bay 10 CBS, DeSantis announces expanded special session targeting Walt Disney World property. From Andrew Kreitz. Governor DeSantis issued a proclamation to have Florida lawmakers consider the termination of special districts established prior to November 1968, specifically targeting the property of Walt Disney World. In his opening remarks during a higher education-focused news conference on Tuesday in the Villages, DeSantis said he wished to expand the legislature's current special session on congressional districts. They will be considering the congressional map, but also will be considering termination of all the special districts that were enacted in Florida prior to '68. That includes the Reedy Creek Improvement District, DeSantis said to Cheers. It's interesting, again, everybody knows that I am going into and doing a mild career change. And because that is going off to possibly real estate, either investing or selling it myself, one of the things that I look at with this is because of the license, we have to learn about land trusts and learning about the Disney Land Trust and how that worked. That was a very interesting way to look at that because, Disney went out to go try to buy this all in private. And I think that's a part of the reason that they got these special districts off that because, a lot of money, a lot of land bought in private especially, but, when they go back and abuse after the government, they can't expect the government to treat them well again. They're being fed a large amount of tax breaks to try to keep bringing jobs into the state of Florida. And they're biting the hand that's feeding them because they think that they're too big to fail. I don't care for the government much myself, but if I was getting government benefits, I wouldn't bite that fucking hand either. Its continued fallout of Disney's criticism of the state's controversial parental rights and education law because it bars educators from teaching about sexual orientation or gender identity to students in kindergarten through 3rd grade. School districts may opt to ban topics of sexual orientation or gender identity beyond 3rd grade if leaders deem them not to be age or developmentally appropriate. Despite Disney's tepid criticism of the legislation prior to its passage, the company has since said it has a goal for this law to be repealed by the legislature, struck down by the courts. It continued in part, "We are dedicated to standing up for the rights of the safety of the LGBTQIARRGMTL72+RGI members of the Disney family, as well as the, you get the fucking point, community in Florida and across the country." DeSantis called the company's stated goal as something that had crossed the line. The state is governed by the interests of the people of the state of Florida. It is not based on the demands of a California corporate executive. They do not run the state. They do not control the state, the governor said in part. DeSantis earlier this month said he was receptive to the changes to Disney's self-governing district for the Walt Disney World property, according to the Orlando Sentinel. In '67, state lawmakers passed, and then Governor Claude R. Kirk Jr. signed the Reedy Creek Improvement Act that had been advocated by Disney for building the new theme park. So $1 billion company taking control of the government, and the leftoids think this is a good idea. It occurs to me that if this was anybody but Disney, they would be screaming bloody murder over this. The district essentially has the same responsibilities as the government, such as land use, essential public services, wastewater control, and more, but it's Disney that's able to operate these functions, the Sentinel reports. Other districts that could be affected include the Bradford County Development Authority, the Sunshine Water Control District in Broward, the East Point Water and Sewer District in Franklin, and the Hamilton County Development Authority, according to the News Service of Florida. DeSantis credited the House Speaker Chris Sprowls and Senate President Wilton Simpson, both of whom attended the governor's news conference on Tuesday, for stepping up and making sure that make the sunset or termination of those special districts happen, which I think is very important. This does seem a little bit sour grapesy, but on the other side of this does look like Disney has enjoyed a lot of freedoms and a lot of extra governmental things that you and I wouldn't get, to be able to go and run their property and make a buttload of money for Florida while trying to stay, for the most part, stay out of Florida politics. They donate to people here and there, but, not trying to force legislation. Now they're coming in and trying to force legislation because of what a bunch of activists said to them on something that, let's be completely honest, they did not give a flying fuck about to begin with. I don't know. I would have to look into this a little bit more to make an educated statement on this, but this is what CBS 10 is reporting. From NBC, DeSantis calls on legislature to kill Disney's special self-governing status. A little bit of a brief overview yet on this again. A little bit of brief review from Mark Caputo and Rebecca Shabbat. Disney crossed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by opposing his law restricting schools from teaching about sexual orientation and gender identity. Now DeSantis and his fellow Republicans in the Florida legislature are ready to make the company pay for it. In a surprise move, DeSantis on Tuesday asked the lawmakers to consider eliminating the special taxing district that allows the company to act as a type of local government. DeSantis, in a news conference on Tuesday, said that in addition to a new congressional map they're voting on this week, in a special session, lawmakers will be considering termination of all special districts that were enacted in Florida prior to '68, and that includes the Reedy Creek Improvement District. So yeah, this is the same information off the local story. We're not going to go into this one. We'll hold off on that. I'm going to do some more research on that, though, definitely, so I can speak a little bit more intelligently about this. Axios, scoop, CNN Plus looks doomed. From Sarah Fisher. Warner Brothers Discovery has suspended all external marketing to spend for CNN Plus, has laid off CNN's longtime chief financial officer as it weighs what to do with the subscription streaming service moving forward, 5 sources tell Axios. Inside CNN executives think the launch has been successful. Discovery executives disagree. CNN Plus has roughly 150,000 subscribers so far. Willing to bet that there's some botting going on there. Warner Brothers wants to eventually build one giant service around HBO Max. New leadership has replaced CNN CFO Brad Farrer with Neil Shugani, Discovery's current CFO for streaming and international, as part of a broader finance team restructuring. Other high-level positions at Warner Media across different business functions are likely to be eliminated to cut costs and streamline leadership in coming weeks. Sources say a plan is being considered to replace Chris Cuomo's 9 p.m. primetime slot with a live newscast instead of personality-driven perspective programming. But as far as CNN Plus goes, they are having a problem getting any more than 10,000 viewers on their service, even with 150,000 subscribers, because you can go on to YouTube and get it for free. Nobody cares about your exclusive content. You can go on YouTube and get it and mock it for free, the content that they already have. You can go on to online and read it online. Nobody cares about the paid content anymore. Now, on a business dealing, and we'll talk just a bit about this a bit more, but on a business dealing for CNN Plus, if it was me, and I was a CFO for Warner, I would try to do the HBO Max app instead, the Warner app, and just said, oh, by the way, you can still watch CNN on this side. You can get this in the bundle if you get the HBO Max app. Isn't that exciting? You can watch Brian Stelter live for the same one-time fee that you use for HBO Max. That's how I would do it if it was me. But of course, it's not me. Warner Brothers Discovery suspends CNN Plus marketing, replaces CFO. And that's the other side of it, too. They're suspending the marketing. They're not going to do this. They're not going to go forward with this. This was a bad idea with the current internet news model. People can get whatever they want for free off of CNN, off their website. And nobody cares to even read the stuff or go through and actually listen to what CNN has to say. They want to put the headline up on social media and say, see, Donald Trump is evil. So, what I might be premature in saying this, but what I really have to say to you, CNN, is this. To CNN Plus, you guys thought I lost that, didn't you? All right. And the last one. And we'll do something that I'm thankful for. From the Blaze. Security video at Airbnb captures men carrying out shooting victim who later died, police say. From Carlos Garcia. The owner of an Airbnb rental in Florida called the police after witnessing a bizarre scene play out on security cameras. The incident unfolded April 13th when a group of men dropped off a gunshot victim at the Heart of Florida Hospital in Davenport, according to Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. The man died at the hospital of his injuries. Police were stymied by the investigation of what appeared to be a murder when they got a call from the Airbnb owner. This isn't the Pennsylvania one, is it? No, this actually is in Florida. The owner of the Airbnb looked on the security cameras and saw this traffic in and out of her house, saw this apparently deceased or very seriously injured person being carried out, and she just called us, Judd explained. And that's how we found the crime scene. Video released in a Facebook post showed 3 men entering a home at around 8:30 p.m. and later dragging out a limp body. They identified the victim as 29-year-old Xavier Antonio Johnson of St. Petersburg. No, this actually happened in Florida. Wow, I thought this news article was something completely different. I guess I should pre-read stuff sometimes. Police said the victim and associates had rented the Airbnb on April 8th and had been selling marijuana in trafficking amounts from the home. On April 13th, 3 men entered the home and allegedly shot Johnson. So, well, if you get wrapped up in the black market, sometimes you suffer the consequences. Sometimes you can become wildly successful, but that's why black market stuff is so expensive. Because sometimes it's dangerous to do so. So, with that, I'm going to go a little bit embarrassed because I thought this was an update on the Pennsylvania shooting from over the weekend, but apparently it was not. And with that, I think we're going to head out of here for the day. But before we do, on Wednesdays, we always look into something that restores my faith in humanity, something that I'm thankful for. And this week is going to be no different. Now, of course, I've gone back to work, and I overslept a little bit today because I was very tired after going back and doing heavy lifting once again. But when I look back and, I'm sitting here, the Tale of the Wrens thing, it just really blows my mind. The fact that there are people out there that are so so bent on destroying people's lives off of this. Now, I am still a small creator, but I know that at some point this is going to come for me too. Even though I criticize Republicans, I say the things that they don't want to hear about limiting the federal government, how bad the federal government is. So at some point this is going to come here too. This is going to come home to roost at some point. And I mean, thankfully enough, I do have a common enough last name that when they do eventually dox me, and I do have to self-dox at some point myself, and I've accidentally done it a few times too. Sign in with your Google account. This one has your last name on it, this one doesn't. This one that you've never used on this computer is still up there though. I am thankful over the fact that, you know, it may have some minimalistic impact off of people around me, but that's been the important part to me, is make sure that the people that are around me are taken care of and don't have to deal. Because again, they didn't ask to be in this arena. They support me in this arena, but they didn't ask to be in this arena. So I do want to make sure that none of what happens here goes back out and affect them. And, you know, very thankful for the fact that I do have a very common last name. So it is a little bit harder to trace some of these people down. The woman in question, whose name I will not repeat on air, does have a very uncommon last name. So tracking down her relatives would be more difficult than it would be for me. So definitely thankful for that. Definitely thankful for the ability to continue to come out and read the news and comment on it and show you where the current establishment line, the progressive line, and even sometimes the Trump line is wrong, and discuss ways that we could make it right, and help try to convince you to put more people in power who are more aligned with you, who just want you to be left alone. I don't know who these people are yet. I hope that we find them at some point, but breaking the idea and the reliance on going through the progressive, family last, community last, only fealty to the federal government, and only put the students into the public schools government model, and moving more people into the idea of being into a mindset of just leave me alone, let me raise my kids, let me be on my property and go. That's what I'm thankful for. And if I had a really, really, really easy to find last, I don't know if I could do this. I really don't. I really feel like if it was easy to find my relatives, I would have been stopped at some point because something would have happened to something there, out there. But, you know, I think we're doing well. I think we're in a good place right now. So that's what we're going to go off with that. And with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. So let's get some outro music up here and let's finish it out. So, thanks everybody for coming in, chatting in the live chat, coming in and hanging out with us, talking about Taylor Lorenz, talking about Florida Man and Florida Man Governor and the mask mandate and Biden running for re-election and all the funny jokes that we've had today. We will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary, more news headlines. We'll probably be talking more Florida because that is the central focus of the midterms and the upcoming presidential election. We'll see what happens with that. We'll probably have some more midterm reports off of this. We will probably talk more about Marjorie Taylor Green since she is supposed to be sitting in court today. So a lot of stuff to go on with that and a lot of stuff to see there. It's going to be a wild rest of the year, especially coming into the midterms. I hope you guys are ready for this. I hope you guys have stocked up on popcorn, even though when we're on Contemporary, it's a little bit early for popcorn. And again, join us on Saturday for discussing the fall of Anakin and what it is that you guys want to ask all of us over on Ed Talk. And with that, we're going to head out of here. Thank you so much. We will see you next time. And until then, I am Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. Take care.